Hi everyone, this is Elias Martin from Collecting Japanese Prints. Welcome to Woodblock Wednesday, where every Wednesday we get together and discuss Japanese prints, paintings, history, and culture. I'd like to start off today's Woodblock Wednesday with a kind of just sort of addressing what's been going on with the coronavirus and well, all of the fear and everything that is just, sort of following from all that. And, it's a scary time. It's a scary time for everyone. Everyone's on edge. And, but one thing I want to sort of just put out there is that if you're watching this video, you're obviously interested in art, Japanese art. So we have a gift. We've been given a gift in our interest in art, and we should sort of seek solace in that interest. I happen to have some more time on my hands now, and I imagine most of you do as well. And so with this time, I think it might be useful sort of just to spend the time learning more about a particular area that you're interested in, whether it be Japanese art or any particular type of art. But if it is Japanese art, I mean, there's a lot of great resources on the web that you can use to help your journey. And, the Art Institute of Chicago has a great collection of prints. The Met, the British Museum, and Honolulu Academy of Arts is a great museum with a great online resource as well. So, I would encourage all of you to maybe unplug from the news, even for a short period of time, and sort of engage your area of interest. If it's Japanese art, there's a lot of information, a lot of images up online. And of course, there's these groups on Facebook that sort of are a good community where you could get together and just discuss art. It's really a wonderful opportunity to be able to do that and help sort of remove yourself from all of this constant information that's coming in through television or even on the internet itself. So as I said, this is certainly a difficult time for all of us. But at the same time, we've been given an opportunity of time. Most people aren't working. Most people are staying in. I hope people are staying in. And I should just say that I probably should have started this conversation by saying if you don't have to go outside, don't. And in all likelihood, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And we should all be part of a solution as opposed to adding to the problem. So if you don't have to go outside, please don't. And as I was saying earlier, with all this newfound time, particularly being inside, you could capitalize on all this time by learning more about any of your interests or any of your hobbies. But in this particular case, it's a great opportunity to learn about Japanese art, Japanese history, Japanese culture. And as I said at the beginning of the video, there's a lot of resources online to pursue those interests and learn more about the area that you're interested in. And so today I picked one print to discuss. And I think the print has a lot of depth and meaning to it. But looking at it in with fresh eyes, with what is going on today, might be useful and very instructive to all of us. So, without further ado, let's go to the table and have a look at the print. So today's print that I chose to discuss is by Taninaka Yasunori. And Taninaka Yasunori was a Sosaku Hanga artist. He was born in 1897. He passed away right after the war. And he was one of the most creative, eccentric artists in Japan. And So with this print, he shows this man who's unclothed, he's nude, and he's exhaling these butterflies that are sort of leaving his mouth and sort of, disappearing out into the window where there's a city. This looks like maybe an apartment, and so, you know, I want to say a few words about this print, and I guess I'm gonna reflect back to what's going on with our life now, with all our lives. We're all sharing this moment in history that is very important. It's traumatic to most of us, if not all, and we're all there's a lot of sacrifices that we're going through or undergoing, and as I said, things may get harder before they get easier. But as I said, moving towards art and taking solace or seeking solace in art because it's all our interest is something that's a gift, and we should really consider learning more about the areas that we're interested in. And for this particular artist, I picked him because he's kind of an obscure 20th century Sosaku Hanga artist. He clearly he's a self-carved, self-printed, sort of self-trained artist. So all of his prints were carved by him and printed by him, by and large. This particular design here, and I have my iPad, and I wanna show a comparison. This particular print actually was produced for a magazine called Shiro to Kuro, and it was done in 1933. And that the Shiro to Kuro means black and white. So primarily, all of the prints in that magazine were done in black and white. And this is a copy. This particular print is in the Gallery of New South Wales in Australia. And here there's the title, Man Exhaling Butterfly, 1933. So I'm going to enlarge this image and I'm going to show you a comparison. This print was not actually printed by the artist. This was carved by the artist, but the blocks were given to the publisher of Shiro to Kuro, and it was produced by someone else. Might have been produced by a machine, I'm not sure. But in this particular case, for those of you interested in his prints and collecting him, this was actually printed from a stock of paper he had from a notebook. You could kind of see the edge of the paper. It almost looks like it was ripped out. And all of his self-printed prints, or I should say most of them, and they're quite rare, but I come across them. They all have a kento. You see this little indentation or this slit that's been cut in the edge of the margin. That's a kento, and what a kento is a registration notch. So what this print, how this print was done, it was put into the block, and this little notch was carved out into the block, and it's pretty much stayed on the block as the artist rubbed the print into the paper. So when you see a kento on his work, that should be a telltale sign, oh wow, this is self-printed. Other telltale signs are the way that the actual print looks. You see these variations of dark and light. Here, there's a greater sort of expressive quality in the printing. When you look at the print in the museum, the tonalities of gray are very regular. They're very even. The black is very even, and there isn't really a variance in the way that the colors or the pigment was printed. The tonalities are very even. Here you get something that's pretty uneven. So it's interesting to see something that's been printed by the hand of the artist and something that was printed by a publisher, a professional publisher, or a machine. And so now to discuss this image, I find this print really compelling. It's one of his most important designs. And, it's also, most people believe it's a self-portrait because he produced so many of them. And here we have this man who is creative enough, maybe perhaps mad enough, to exhale these butterflies that go out into the world. And we know that that's the world because there's this city, all out into the distance where the sun is illuminating the entire landscape. And I think it's interesting. It's interesting because the butterflies can be seen as an alter ego for Taninaka Yasunori. And it also serves as, for some of you who are students of Buddhism, and I certainly have been interested in Buddhism, there's this idea that the individual doesn't really exist because it's temporary. There is no individual with a capital I. It's more about we are a combination of experiences and karma, and really what in Buddhism the thing that actually is real, more real than the individual, is the work towards enlightenment. And so it's interesting to think that maybe these butterflies are the work that he's putting out into the world. And I connect this to Buddhism because there's this sort of this pedestal made out of this might be a lotus sort of pedestal that you kind of see on Buddhist sculptures, that you could almost imagine him standing on top of here at some point and being a sort of a bodhisattva or a future Buddha that is engaged in the world, as a statue. So it's interesting that's there. And so, there's this element of what do we put out into the world? What are we doing to contribute? And for Taninaka Yasunori, it's this work of beauty, of transformation. Butterfly clearly represents transformation, something that is not born with wings, but then can soar out into the world. And he's certainly contributing to these creatures that are that go out into the world and add beauty. And so, it's funny, I started thinking about this print a few days ago, and I started thinking about, well, how's this coronavirus, spread? Well, it's spread through sneezing, coughing, it's spread through the mouth. And it's kind of, without getting too preachy, we do have a lot of time to reflect on things. And so I started thinking, well, what do we say? What do we do? What is our work that we put out into the world, and how does it make a difference? And I think the artist here is addressing that very thing. He's addressing on what is it that he does as an individual, as an artist, that contributes to the beauty of the world. And at this very time in history, we can all contribute in a very big way by, if for nothing else, staying in and not communicating, or not communicating, but not going out into the world and maybe possibly infecting other people with this virus, and also just being mindful of other people. This idea of distancing, social distancing, is an interesting idea. It's going to suck, obviously, but at the same time, we're being mindful of the other person in our everyday. We're being mindful that our actions have an immediate consequence to someone else. And in the end, when all of this is said and done and it's over, perhaps it's a very good lesson to consider. So I'm just throwing that out there. Much like Taninaka is contributing these butterflies into the air, and so I wanted to share this print because it has a lot of meaning. It's very profound design. But I also think when we look at it in this context, it adds so much more. So I'm just going to stop talking for a moment. I'm going to zoom in on the print and so that you can have a look. I should also sort of mention a little bit about him. Besides being very eccentric and really imaginative and creative, he made some really wonderful prints that he left us. Um, he had a very unfortunate death. Actually, it was very sad. I mean, he was one of those artists that liked to spend money, and not not in a crazy way. It's not like he would go out and just spend his money at shops or something. He would go out and drink a lot and buy other people drinks. He spent his money on things that just didn't make a whole lot of sense. But he had this childlike innocence to him that in some ways reflects his way of living. But at the end of his life, the Allied bombings, which destroyed most of Tokyo, destroyed his home, and he was living in a hut that was where his home once stood, and he basically was living off of a pumpkin patch that he had in the backyard. That was his sole source of food. And at the time after the war, a lot of people died from starvation. And, Taninaka Yasunori was associate of Onchi. Onchi was sort of the spiritual leader of the Sosakuhanga movement, particularly after the war. And Onchi was giving him money, giving him food, as well as other artists. Onchi fed a great number of Sosakuhanga artists that sort of ended up in his home almost every day. And so he asked him once, "How are you doing?" And Taninaka responded, "Oh, Mr. Pumpkin is treating me really well," referring to his pumpkin patch. But then all of a sudden, no one saw him. And it was discovered that he passed away from malnutrition. And it's really unfortunate to think about him and just dying that way and being so creative and being such a gift in Japanese art and in the history of Japanese art, and not just that, it's just as a good human being, and so that's how he passed away. But he left us with a legacy of really wonderful prints and an artwork. He painted some things, left some sketches. So if you don't know him all that well, I encourage you to look him up and use your free time wisely, and look up these wonderful artists that left us such a legacy of great art. This particular artist and this print is on the art gallery of New South Wales website, so you could learn more about him. There's some information there. This print I think is at the British Museum, so you could probably look it up there as well. But I just wanted to share this print because, as I said, the design, there's a lot of depth to the meaning, but I think it also has a lot of meaning for us now. So I'll zoom in again. Well, I want to thank all of you for joining me today on Woodblock Wednesday, where we get together and discuss Japanese art, history, culture. And just to close, I want to encourage all of you to take care of yourself and to stay in if all possible. And again, to see this opportunity, it's a very, granted, this time is a very hard time for all of us, but to see this time as an opportunity to be able to pursue your interests and other than commercial ones, explore your hobbies. And if you're interested in Japanese art, I assume you are because you're watching this video, this is a wonderful opportunity to learn about your area of interest. And so use the resources that are online to learn more about it. And of course, email me or direct message me on Facebook or anywhere really, and I'm happy to assist with providing you links to places you can go. And there's plenty of resources. So, there's no reason why we can't learn more about our passions or our interests. So please use this time wisely and stay in. And I wish you all health and again, take care of yourself. And I will see you again soon. I'm thinking about doing videos not just on Wednesday, but on Friday, now that we have so much time on our hands. So if any of you have an idea or would like to suggest a topic on videos, feel free to comment in my video below here, or send me an email or private message. And of course, if you want to check out some more prints, please look at my website, collectingjapaneseprints.com. Thank you again for joining me. I will see you very soon. Thanks.